My name is Beverly Tumala. I'm a nurse for Christus Hospice, and I'm the Vice President of ABODE's Board of Directors and the Chair of the Education Committee. And I'd like to thank the Education Committee for all their efforts in getting this program together tonight and contacting speakers and coming up with great ideas. And we're going to have a wonderful talk tonight, just like we did last week. We have so many people here tonight, and we're reaching all over the country. We even have a Canadian on board tonight. She was here last week with us. Hi, Candy. North Dakota is getting snow. Are you getting snow?
Actually, at home, we've got like almost 1.5 feet of snow, but I'm in the Philippines right now visiting my granddaughter. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so our Canadians in the Philippines.
It's hot.
That's
I know what you guys feel like most of the time.
Wow. Well, Zoom is wonderful.
Yes.
So tonight we're going to continue to talk about death and dying, religious customs and rituals. And, this has really been a topic that has brought a lot of interest. And Rabbi Stahl did a wonderful job last week, and we really enjoyed his talk, and I've learned so much. And so I know you're on, Rabbi. Thank you so much for all of your effort in putting that talk together, and we really enjoyed it. We had rave reviews from it, so thank you for those of you who filled out your survey, and know again tomorrow you'll have another one for tonight's speaker. Tonight we're going to hear from Veena Prasad, and we're going to talk about the Hindu faith. We're recording these sessions, so I believe I heard Mary say that Rabbi Stahl's session was released today, and that's on the ABODE website. And so next week at some point, Dr. Prasad's talk will be on the website as well. So before we get started, as you know, we do a contemplative moment. And tonight, Mary, the executive director of ABODE, is going to do that for us. It's a time for us to focus, just kind of get ourselves together and centered and ready to accept what this offering has to offer us. So, invite Mary to go ahead and get started.
Thank you so much, Beverly. This is a prayer that Dr. Prasad shared with us, and it's from the Gandhi Institute for Nonviolence. I desire neither earthly kingdom nor even freedom from birth and death. I desire only the deliverance from grief of all those afflicted by misery. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May there be peace in celestial regions. May there be peace on earth. May the waters be appeasing. May herbs be wholesome, and may trees and plants bring peace to all. May all beneficent beings bring peace to us. May your wisdom spread peace all through the world. May all things be a source of peace to all and to me. And feel free to join me in Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mary. Can you hear me okay?
I'm going to introduce you now, Dr. Prasad.
Yeah.
She is from the University of Texas Long School of Medicine, and she's going to share highlights of the Hindu faith with us tonight. As a service to the community, Dr. Prasad performs all the Hindu rituals, including cremation ceremonies. She also chants Gita and reads scriptures to those in their last hours on the request of the families. Dr. Prasad works at UT Health, Long School of Medicine, as a behavioral health consultant. She's partnering with a UT palliative care physician to develop a resource and training for culturally competent end-of-life care and conversations. Isn't that amazing? Thank you so much. Dr. Prasad, welcome. And We are so happy you're with us tonight.
Thank you so much. Good evening and namaste to all of you. I want to say last week, the talk was so wonderful. I learned so much, and I'm going to do my best. And last week after I left, I said, gosh, I have learned so much wisdom from you. Thank you so much. So today I started with this prayer. It is called Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Mritam Gamaya, Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. So I chose this prayer because in light of what's happening around us, let there be peace. So that was the reason I used this prayer. I'm a behavioral health consultant. I am a mom, wife, all those. But on the side, as a service to the community, I have started performing all the Hindu rituals since 1999 on a regular basis. And there were a lot of pushbacks before because usually you don't see that many women priests doing any. I'm not an ordained priest, but doing any of these rituals. And as the time went on, people have started accepting us. One of my colleagues, we do it. We go all over the country. In a way, I would say all over the world. We have done weddings in Sweden and India and other places. Online Zoom prayers to London and all those. So this is part of the service to the community. The donations I receive goes to a charity organization, including Center for Refugee Services. So, as you know, Mary, how would I start sharing the screen? Here?
Let's see. Do you see a little green square?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Click that, and then
Yeah.
you should be able to find your PowerPoint.
One participant can share at a time, it says.
Oh, I see. Huh. Okay, bear with me just a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, now try.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Advanced sharing options. It doesn't. How about you show for me? That may be easier. Yeah, perfect. Yes. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So when you see the top picture, it is Kailash in Himalayas. That is where Shiva, Lord of Death, resides. That's in the Himalayas. That was the picture I used. So the next slide, please. So I divided this into 4, just to give you a brief outline of what are all the things we do in Hindu rituals. Physical, psychological, spiritual, in the moment, as soon as the person is passing or at the time of death, is a whole other set of rituals that we follow. And then, as you know, Hinduism is a way of life. Although there are customs, rituals. If you ask a Hindu, he or she will say, I follow Krishna. Somebody else will follow Shiva. Somebody else will follow Mata. So there are so many. And we have so many caste systems. We have so many sub-caste systems. So each one of them, they may have their own rituals, but I'm trying to put all this as general. What are some common things that we do? And in the US, what has happened is people have started to follow the main rituals that we all follow. So that I will highlight them at the end also. Next slide, please. So this is one of the oldest religions, and it's called, actually, it's not called Hinduism, it's called Sanatana Dharma. That's the oldest religion. And the belief, fundamental belief we believe is life is one, but life goes through many cycles of birth and death. And birth and death, especially rebirth, are results of desires and action. If we do good action, we may come only few times. Otherwise, or if we have desires and we have unfulfilled desires, we may come back as maybe a higher being, or we may start at the as a bird, as an insect. So that is up to how we live our life. And freedom from cycle of birth or oneness with God, that is what we call is moksha. That is we call is union with God. In Sanskrit term is called moksha. The next slide, please. So end of care of a Hindu. So I'm divided them into physical care, psychological care, spiritual care, and end of life rituals at the time of death. So I'm going to go to address physical care right now. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the belief is, we believe that body is a temple, though. So you have to take good care of your body. So the Sanskrit term for that is Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. That means our body is a temple. If you take care of your body, then you can do good things to others. If we cannot take care of ourselves, then we are not of much use to anyone, including ourselves. So self-care is very much highlighted in every aspect of Hinduism. And generally, shoes are not invited into the house. You leave shoes outside. So if somebody is in a home, in a care home, many of them would probably want you to leave your shoes outside. And on a regular basis, fasting is done every 15 days. And fasting may vary from just drinking warm water to just eating once a day. And then also some religions, including Jain religion, they have 15 days of fasting as a form of cleansing. So in fact, that's one of the ways many Jains choose to pass away is they start fasting of 40 days, 41 days, just with warm water. And usually Hindus do not eat before taking a bath, maybe coffee, not even that. And in terms of caregiver, especially for personal hygiene, they prefer same-sex caregiver. It is very hard for them to go with opposite sex caregiver, like many other traditions, but this is something that is highlighted. And in Hindu homes, many homes, the bathrooms used to be outside of the house. Now that it's inside, but still, if you have to use a commode or a bedpan or any of that, they would prefer it to be in a different room, not where you're sitting or you're lying down or some not close proximity. And as you know, in Hinduism, we believe in the karma. So as we know, the karma is something action that we do. Good karma meaning good action. And even the thought of doing good action is considered to be a karma. So physical suffering at many times is believed to be part of what we did in this life, what we are doing in this life, and also what we have accumulated in past lives. That is why we are suffering in this life. And from psychological perspective, it also gives them a way of accepting the physical suffering, saying that it is my karma, so I am taking care of it now, hoping that it will not affect me as I move forward. Maybe this is my last birth. There is no rebirth for me. I have achieved moksha. So that's generally the thinking pattern in these cases. The next one, please. Yeah. So pain control is another one. I would just briefly talk about it. Perception of pain is, it's considered to be accepted to have that I have a good sense of pain control, in the sense they don't want to show pain when people are there. They suffer silently, but at the same time do not express, because it's considered to be a sign of weakness if you say that I am suffering from pain. And then the other thing is, I want to suffer as much, be in pain, so that this is my way of repenting for what the deeds I may have done, or I have done accumulated from the past. So these are some things for caregivers to be aware of. Sometimes they may not want as much pain medication. And when it comes to medication, so this is actually very important. Most, or I would say many Hindus, who follows all the like the rituals, they would say that I do not want medication which are gelatin based. And in fact, I know some people who refuse to take medication if it's gelatin based. And they would rather be in pain, and they would be alert and not take medication if it is gelatin based. And again, in Hindus, as I said, there are ways of, but some of them are very liberal, they are okay. And there are some who follow rituals and customs and traditions from the scripture directly. So some of them may have a hard time. And also many Brahmin, the upper caste Brahmins, may not want to have any medication with this, which has gelatin in it. And blood transfusion, again, varies from group to group, because some may have no hesitations and some may have problems, and they would like to ask the source where it has, where is the source, where has been the source that this blood has been obtained. So psychological care. So again, we do, okay, there's a question, who should make decision for pain med? If patient says it's okay, will family push back? Occasionally it is true, which I have alluded to at the later slide, but I will talk about that. Many times they will say, ask my son, generally if they have a son, ask my son what he would want to do, what he wants me to do. Or they would say, if it's a woman, I want to ask my husband or my in-laws or my parents. And then they take directions from there. And many times the son or a male figure usually makes a decision in these cases. Psychological care. This is something that we encounter even in as with our clients, many, not just from India, in general, even from Southeast Asia, depression is seen as a sign of weak mind. They would say, well, and many will not come for counseling or therapy because it's considered to be weak. How come you have depression? And medication hesitancy is very big. Many are afraid to take medication. They don't want to take medications, especially for depression, psychosis, even bipolar. It's hard. And as a population in India, the number of psychiatrists are very, very, I think 1 in 5,000 or 10,000 or something like that. If you think about it, it's not so easily available because people don't go, although things have opened up a little bit more. And again, anxiety related to death or illness, it varies according to acceptance of death. Some people come to terms with death, and in Gita, Bhagavad Gita, one of the chapters, Krishna talks about whoever is born, the moment they are born, they will die. So don't be worried about death. And it also, he says, do not grieve for the person who is dying or who is dead. So this brings a lot of complications. Then I encounter this many times. People will say, I am not allowed to grieve for the person who is gone because according to Gita, it says, don't grieve for the person who is gone because it's natural process. And there is also a fear that if I grieve, I am holding back the person for his or her journey further. Is self-inflicted pain considered to be acceptable to experience penance? Not so much, but in some cities, yes. If you have seen, they make a hole in the tongue and they use one of those. It's a sharp object, and they go around praying for I mean, they have made a prayer saying that if this happens to me, I'm going to do this. So it is common. Not I haven't seen it in America, but it is in smaller towns. It's still happening. So, and then varies according to acceptance of death. So that's one of the major thing you may want to pay attention to is you would tell them it's okay to grieve. And you can also say that we grieve for the person whom we came to know, but the soul will have to have the soul's journey. So this creates a lot of anxiety in Hindus. And I have encountered so many people. How can I grieve for a person who is gone? Because I am hindering his or her journey moving forward to wherever the soul is going to travel to. And medication affecting alertness may or may not be accepted. So certain medications, they may ask you, what's the side effect? Why am I taking this? Is this going to make me very hyper alert? So you would probably have, the caregivers have to, healthcare practitioners have to explain to them what it's given for. This is another hesitation many times. And the next slide, please. Yeah, so in psychological care, again, fear is directly related to death as an end, and also the degree of attachment. This is like two sides of an issue. They know death is the end. At the same time, they are not able to let go of all the attachment, what we call Maya in Hinduism, all the attachments. So their question is at the end, they would say, how do I let go of my attachment? Because I know if I have attachment, I will have to come back. I don't want to come back. We want to be in total moksha. So again, insomnia related to fear, but they may not want to take medication. And this is a desire to be at home, not in the hospital. I think that's nowadays across every custom, every ritual, every population, they want to be at home. And I know back home, most of them, they get caregivers at home and they die at home. They don't want to be in the hospital. And suffering is still considered to be a result of unfulfilled desires. That is like vasana, what we call in Sanskrit is vasana. It is unfulfilled. So that's why I'm suffering. And this is very hard. Desire to know, not to know the prognosis. Back in India, even now, people will not know, especially if there's cancer or something. Many times the families choose not to tell them. And they would just get their treatment. When they start going for chemo, many of them will probably get it, but they will still say they don't know the diagnosis. They will tell them not to, the families decide not to let the patient know. And it's accepted and the doctors honor it. And family's wish is not to tell the patient. And many times our man of the family or the older son will handle details. They will decide who would they want to let them know, inform, and they will also decide who need not know. So it's up to them. And in India, routinely, they will honor, the doctors will say, whatever, whoever you want to let them know, that's fine. And even there are cases, even in the death report, they would make a diagnosis as something very simple than actual diagnosis, because there is a sense that any of this major illnesses is part of their karma. So it's in a way, it's a shaming thing in many families. What's the basis? Oh, sorry, I didn't, yeah. I missed that question. What's the basis for this belief of not knowing for the son? Okay. Yeah, so yeah, again, it's about, if it's a cancer or something, a lot of times it is considered to be shaming because it's perceived as because they did bad deeds, they're getting this. And also in many families, the son or if the husband is living and they are considered to be head of the families, they decide how to handle the details. And sometimes the whole families go with that. And it's generally the elder son or older son who decides on this. Next slide, please. So spiritual care now. This is what we are basically addressing, talking about today in a way that, so like I said, there are so many gods. There is actually, they talk about, someone asked, why do Hindus have so many gods? They said, well, you can call any one of your choice. You have a choice to invite. So we have so many different form of gods: Shiva, Vishnu, Krishna, Brahma, so many female deities. So many gods are there. And then it's important to ask, who do they follow? Sometimes the Swamijis are the gurus they follow, teachers. They're also considered to be God. And God is the one who dictates everything. That's what we believe. God controls everything. And concept of self is an illusion. Life is an illusion. It is Maya. That is, we live in this world of illusion. And the only truth is birth and death. And in between the life is all called illusion. So in Gita, again, he talks about it, the in between life, don't get attached to it. Do your duty and then move on. And spiritual beings go through a temporary phase. How we live our life here is a very temporary phase, and we pass that phase, and then we go on to death, and that is the end. And then we move on to next life. That is where, if we have done based on our good karma, we may get moksha, or we come back. And like I said, suffering is due to attachment to things, attachment to families, attachment to whatever we are attached in this world. So if you have seen many of these Swamijis or gurus, they are not attached to anything. So there have been cases where people get older and they say, we took Vanaprastha. That means their attachments becoming less and less, and they spend more time praying and all those. How do you not attach to loved ones? It's a good question, actually, and children. So attachment is you give them love, you give them security, you bring them up. That is considered to be part of your duty. From Gita, it says you do your duty, but do not get attached to them, in the sense, once they are on their way, you let them go find their own life, and not be so much into their lives. You live your life and let them be. So it is attachment in the sense it's not an attachment, non-attachment where you don't care about them. You show love, but you also be there as a guide, but you are not so much entering into their life. That is how this is perceived as. The next slide, please. So the concept of death is, again, soul is not destroyed. Soul travels from one life to another, in the sense it keeps traveling, goes to next life, depending on the soul, depending on what the karmas have been done. Then the soul either travels to their families, or soul may come back in a different form, in a different body. Okay, as a physician in the West, yeah. What do you think about the tradition of allowing the older male making decision for a person? Yes, actually, I'm not a physician, but I have myself had to talk to people about these things. So in some cases, the patient will give you permission to do just that. They say, well, whatever my son says, I will do it. Or whatever my daughter, whoever, my husband. And in some cases, it becomes an issue. So as a physician, it is good for the physician to get the family together and get everyone's opinion, and then depending on that, you can decide how to go about it. That's when the family meetings become very important. And sometimes the patient will tell you, I don't want to know, you just tell my son. And that has happened. Actually, somebody a year ago or so had called me, and I had to explain to the physician, and I also talked to the son and said, in that case, it probably was okay, because they gave all the care, and the physician said, it is, again, I cannot do this as part of my care. So, but the thing is, he probably didn't disclose 100% of what is happening. So it worked out in that case. You will probably have to decide each based on each case. And it's in the use of lower caste in terms of God, term God in the previous slide, purposeful. Oh, you mean in the previous slide? Can you go back to the previous slide, please? I don't know which one is talking about. God, concept of God. Yeah, no, it's the same. It's. I just used the God here because I started a new sentence. That's all. Yeah, thank you for those very good notice that you noticed. Yeah, so there was another question. If the patient's view differs from the elder males, who prevails? Well, it's a very good question. In many cases, almost the cases that I know, they come to a consensus because, remember, in many Indian families, even here, the elders make decisions. One of the elder will probably come and say, well, you have to take patients' views into consideration, and he or she will talk to the son, and they come to a consensus of maybe disclosing some, but not. So when these two things are there, the patient and the son are on opposite side of the spectrum, then elders come into picture, or the guru that who they believe, they may come into picture, or the role of priest may come into picture. They may ask the priest, what do you think we should do? And a lot of times as counselors, we are not allowed to say you do this, right? But in many Hindu families, they ask you tell us what to do. It's more of direction. They want direction in these cases. So at that time, you read some scriptures and read it to them, especially Gita, and then they may come to a consensus on that. And Gita chanting. So this is something I do before, if the patient, we know patient is in his or her last hours or last days, Gita chanting is done, especially chapter 2, where Krishna talks about uh, the transient life. We are here only for a short time, and then you make best use of it, and do not get attached to things. So that Gita chanting is known to be very beneficial for the patient and also families. And they feel that they have done some things that are really religious for the patient before he or she goes. And read scriptures. There are another one or two of these Upanishads. You read those. They're all Sanskrit chanting. You do chanting. You do singing like bhajans, light candles, and incense sticks, of course. And many patients prefer to have a picture of a guru or a god. Generally, they bring Ganesha with them. Ganesha is Lord who removes all the obstacles. They bring with them, or any other gods. And when I said beads, that is to the prayer beads. There are 2 or 3 kinds of beads. One is called Rudraksha, that is grown, and the belief is that those Rudraksha beads are each angle of that bead is represented by each god. So that's why Rudraksha beads are very used for chanting and also praying. And there is also holy basil. From that they make beads. That's another beads that used. Usually there are 108 beads. A string has 108 beads, and we have a lot of prayers that we chant different names for same god of different names of 108 names. So that is very popular, like those beads. And you may have seen patients having a bead and they'll be just chanting something, Gayatri mantra, or the mantra for Shiva. And at the end of life, it is considered to be holy to put water from Ganga. We all have in our homes Ganga water. You put some water at the end. And tulasi leaves, holy basil leaf, you put that, and then you put some water from Ganga. If the patient has had Ganga water, that means he or she will attain salvation or moksha. Ganga water is water from Ganges river, and they bottle it and sell it. And every one of us, we have a small container of water from the Ganges river. Next slide, please. So at the time of death and right after. So at the time of death, singing names of different divinities, different gods, and chanting mantras. That's something I do also. Is Ganga water similar to significance to last rites in Catholic faith? Yes, very similar. In fact, in India, we grew up with not only learning Hinduism, but there been a lot of Catholicism. We would go to church, and many of these rituals are very, very similar. So it is true, that's the same thing. And photos of gurus, teachers, and gods, and the Rudraksha beads that I just talked about. Keep a Rudraksha necklace on the body if at the time, and water, Ganges water, tulasi leaves, and it's considered to be auspicious as soon as the person dies. Light an earthen, like a lamp with clay pot. The reason we use clay pot in oil and have oil with a small wick is life is short and life is also temporary. Just like the earth takes, it's clay, goes back to clay. We all go back to the matter. to earth, water, all the 5 elements of water. So we are made of 5 elements. We go back to earth. That's why we use the earthen, like a lamp with oil and a small cotton wick. The next slide, please. So here again, we many Hindu rituals differ because based on caste, based on customs, based on even in caste, there are so many different states what they follow. Some may wash the body, some may not want to wash the body. And it is, again, even cremation versus burial is also based on some castes, they only cremate, and some do burial. So that is a choice, and that is something the families have to let you know. And it is considered to be auspicious for the person who is going. Cremation has to be done within 24 hours. And if the cremation is done within 24 hours, it is said that this person has done something good in his or her life. That's why he was cremated within 24 hours. And waiting longer, it is said that person has done a lot of sins. That's why he or she is still here. And son does cremation. Generally the son. If they don't have son, someone like a son who was like a son to that family, he does the cremation. Well, this is true. What happens when the law makes us wait 3 days? It does happen. In during COVID, I did a cremation ritual for a family, almost 11 days. And then the thing is, 11 days, the families are not supposed to cook at home. Somebody else has to bring the food. So it was, and they followed every ritual very strictly. So it was very hard for them. They would have to find someone to bring food. They couldn't eat outside. So yes, I mean, it happens very often here, but in India, the cremation is done within 12 hours for sure. Here, because of paperwork, it takes longer. And I mean, it is accepted. There are not too many things you can do about this. And and the other thing too is embalming is not accepted. So usually they use ice to keep the body if they have to wait longer. So the ritual part is what I wanted to focus a little bit more. So the ritual part is where we have 13 days of rituals. And first, the cremation. I'm just going to talk about cremation first. So when the cremation goes on, the priest chants mantras, and we make something with rice and sesame seeds. We make rice balls, and we keep on top of 5 balls on the body, symbolizing the 5 elements that we are made of. And then each mantra chanting is followed then by dropping one of the rice ball on one part of the body. For example, it starts from the forehead all the way, forehead, heart, stomach, the below the stomach, and then just before the thighs. And then what are the 5 elements? Earth, water, air, fire, and the sky. And then, so before the fire is lit, we use sandalwood for the generally it's sandalwood, and then we use teak and oak wood for then we use rice. All of them are put in the casket. We have a temporary casket before the body goes in, and the son or whoever is doing it goes around the casket many times, 7 times. So the 7 times symbolizing, so there are 7 worlds in once they leave this body that they have to cross in order to follow their ancestral path. And at the end, before the body goes into the cremation, the fire, the son, whoever is doing the cremation, takes water in an earthen pot and keeps it on his right shoulder and goes around dropping the water, like spilling the water around the casket. At the end of 3 rounds, he will drop the earthen pot and it breaks, and he doesn't look back. That is symbolizing the body is going to be cremated now, and the person's attachment to this world is over, and we have to let them go. We have to make their transition to other life smoother. That's why it's done. And after the cremation, starting the day of the cremation, they don't do anything. After that, there are 13 days. The family does not go anywhere, and people can come to their house. They can bring food and other things. And sons shave their heads. Sorry about the spelling mistake. It shave their heads to show that they are mourning for the death of their parents or whoever in the family. And then, so after the people can come and visit. That time, people are asked to come and visit. Yes, of course. You can cry at the funeral. It is totally accepted that you can cry. In fact, some cultures, I don't know whether you heard of this, in some cultures, some states, they invite a whole group of people to come and cry at these ceremonies, because when you see someone else crying, your grief also, you probably will show your grief. So it is accepted. But again, when going back to this thing about don't grieve over death, and then we are asked to cry, that's where the dilemma happens. And then they say, well, we are not allowed to grieve for the person, and yet we have to grieve for the loss. So I tell them it is you grieve for the person who is dead, because that was the person you knew, and not for the soul, because soul has to go on to his or her abode, wherever he or she's going to be. The next slide, please. So death ceremony starts at the 3rd day and goes through the 12th day. So every day there is a ritual. And in fact, some studies have been done, and I myself have attended all these ceremonies. What happens is you're really sad when you lose a person, your parent, whoever. But after 3rd day, 4th day, when you see that they repeat the mantra, they repeat chanting of the person who is gone, his or her generations, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, all of them. And they say, okay, today he has made one journey to next generation. From there, they have made another journey to the generation after. So by end of 12th day, there is an acceptance the person is gone, because you have gone through this ritual so much, and you start to say, accept that the person is gone, and this is the reality. It is a very, I would say, the ritual part is in a way coming to terms with death. I think that's one reason that is being done. And the 13th day, they honor the life of the person by inviting all family and friends, and they have a good, they make lunch or dinner and make all the dishes that person liked or loved. And you give a lot of donations to priests, temples, people, and many forms of donations given on that day is considered to be auspicious for the person who is gone, and his or her journey will be considered to be smooth from then on. And then that is the day, 13th day, is when it's believed the soul finally starts to travel to the soul's destination, wherever that is. And from then we start to have monthly rituals every month, followed on the lunar calendar. Every month there's a ritual, the priest comes and we go through, it's offering water and offering those rice balls like I talked about, and then feeding the crow, the bird crow, and you leave some food outside. And the yearly, from then on, it's every year on the lunar calendar, the day they are gone, we celebrate every year celebration. And when I would be doing for my parents, although I'm a girl, I would still do it, or generally the son does it. And after me, my parents don't get the yearly. It's only for me at that point. My children will be doing it for me. That's how it goes, because then they're already reached their destination. The next one. Yeah, these are the references. And there's a book by Atul Gawande. If you have read that book, he talks a lot about some of the rituals. And it's being mortal. He is a physician in Harvard Medical School, and he loses his dad. He talks about all the rituals. In fact, he goes to River Ganges, Ganga, and he leaves his father's ashes there. That is another belief. People collect ashes here, and they get a certificate, and they take it to River Ganges in Kashi, and the priests come and do a whole ritual just to leave the ashes. Here, when I do the rituals, many of them will say, we are not going to India. We are not going to do this here. So at that point, they take permission and leave a little bit in the ocean and a little bit in the wherever rivers of their choices. If one loses a child, sibling, or spouse, are there different rituals? No, rituals are all the same. They are the same. And if child is gone, then what happens is the parent, the parent father does the ritual. And then some rituals are different because it was a young person. So on the 10th day, instead of doing it for many other generations, they have some different rituals on that day, but most of it is the same. Everything else is the same. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to read this, and then I can take any questions. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. From ignorance, lead me to truth. From darkness, lead me to light. From death, lead me to immortality. Om Shantihi peace, let there be peace everywhere. When we say lead me to immortality, meaning once we reach moksha, that is, there is no coming back. that is immortality. Every Hindu's wishes, there is no coming back. That is Sanskrit. What I recited is Sanskrit. And what I recited in the beginning is also Sanskrit. Well, I have a few minutes if anybody has any question, and I can leave my email and you're welcome to ask me questions. And if you know of someone who would like me to read, if they're at the end, please reach out to me. It's totally free. If I'm available, I would be happy to do it. And it is considered to be an honor, and you accumulate a lot of merits if you do the end of life ritual for a person. So yeah, there was a question. I'm sorry. Are there certain, yes. Yeah, well, we used to use MJ Rodriguez in downtown, but there's a new one now that is on 1604 Franklin, that memorial. They have a new facility and it is very good. So I have gone there to perform some rituals, and they accommodate everything. They are open to all the rituals, and for us to have a small candle at the bottom and rice and everything else, they let us do, and also break the pot. They are okay with that. Any questions, comments? Yes. What's the most important thing I should know as hospice nurse? One thing is ask them, not assume, because every basic rituals are the same, but there may be some variations based on what they follow, based on their caste and based on their families. So ask them what are their beliefs and how can you support their beliefs. And of course, HIPAA doesn't let us discuss their condition, but still they may tell you exactly how they want their disease to be known to others. So that's another thing too. Clothing after death. Yes, here it's traditionally people do put new clothes, and it's only done in certain castes in India. And in some, they don't do that. They let them go in the same. And as during in the fire, it is customary to put all the precious metals and pearl just as a token of the honoring their life. You put a little bit of the gold, silver, and all that at the end in the fire. Yes, well, this is general, but rituals do differ according to one's caste. Yes. And certain rituals, certain castes, they won't cremate, they bury. So that's one thing. Yeah. How many people in San Antonio would follow these rituals? Almost all of them, they follow these. And then what has happened is usually, thank you very much. Usually what happens is the generation, like for example, I know I made an attempt to learn all this. My children will not know all this. So they will go to someone, a priest, and say, can you do all these rituals for my parents, right? So that's how it is done. In America or in any other outside of India, it's pretty much standard. These things are done. And then I perform the ritual like cremation. I also go to their house on the 13th day. I cannot go every third day, sixth day, all that, because all of that is totally voluntary. I don't get paid. I have to have my living. So I go on the 13th day. I combine all the rituals and do it on that day. And so does my colleague. She does all of them. And if I were to say, there are very, very few female priests, and there are some who will ask you and they will say, no, sorry, we want male, but that's also changing. So it's a population that's evolving, and I have no doubt in 10, 15 years, you would see many women priests who will be doing all this.
Wow. Dr. Prasad, this was fabulous. I think we all learned so much from you tonight.
Thank you
And-
so much. It gave me a chance to put it together, and let me know if you have any questions. I would be happy to write back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Yeah, if you have questions, email Mary or put them in the chat as it's opened. And next Thursday evening, we're going to meet with Imam Shakir. He's going to speak to us about death and dying in the Muslim faith. And look for your evaluations tomorrow in your email box. We'd love to hear from you and see what you thought. But I was just blown away. I've learned so much tonight, and I will put this to good use for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Namaste. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you
Namaste.
so much.
Thank
Namaste.
you.